O ye sojourners who tread the fragile paths of this mortal coil, gather nigh and let thine ears be captivated by a tale that rendeth the veil of eternity. I stand afore thee as a lowly herald of the Most High, robed not in the fleeting pomp of earthly stories, but in the mantle of his everlasting truth. This is the chronicle of a man who died, beheld the ineffable glory of heaven, and returned to this world a stranger, his soul ablaze with a vision that transformed him forever. If this tale quickeneth thy heart, like it to proclaim God's wonders, and share it that others may glimpse the eternal. Now picture this in thy mind's eye. What if this very night thy breath failed, thy heart stilled, and thou stoodest before the radiant gates of heaven, only to hear a voice command thee to return? Wouldst thou cling to the shadows of this world, or would thy soul burn to herald the glory thou hast seen? Such was the lot of a laborer, a man unremarkable in the eyes of men, whose life was snuffed out like a taper on a storm-racked road. Yet Boshian, in his unfathomable mercy, opened the heavens to him, and what he saw changed not only his life, but the lives of countless others. Can a man behold the face of the Savior and remain unmoved? If this question stirreth thee, like this story, and share it to awaken wonder in another's soul. Yet who was this man, and why did the Almighty choose him for such a vision? He was no prophet clad in camel's hair, no sage versed in holy writ, but a laborer named Amos, his hands calloused from years at the forge, hammering iron to feed his wife, Miriam, and their young daughter Ruth. His life was a tapestry of toil, days spent in the heat of the smithy, nights haunted by the ghosts of loss. His brother had perished of a fever, his father had cast him out in youth, and his heart bore the weight of these wounds. His faith was a flickering ember, kindled only in moments of desperation, a prayer muttered when the harvest failed, a plea whispered when Ruth fell ill. He knew the name of God, but not his heart. His soul drifted like a ship unmoored, seeking harbor in a sea of cares. Consider the parable of the lost traveler who wandered a desert, his water skin dry, his map torn. He sought oases that proved mirages until a shepherd found him, leading him to a spring of life. So was Amos, lost in the desert of this world, until God himself became his guide. Why Amos? Not for his righteousness, for he was no saint, but for God's purpose, to make a beacon of one who was not in men's eyes, that his glory might shine the brighter. Amos's goal was audacious, to proclaim the reality of heaven to a village steeped in doubt, to kindle faith where cynicism reigned. He was driven by the memory of a glory that seared his soul, a love that would not let him rest. His mission was not to live again, but to live for God, to bear witness to a kingdom that dwarfed the treasures of earth. If his courage moveth thee like this tale, and share it to inspire others to seek the everlasting. And lo, the tale turneth to a moment of calamity. A tempest roared through the hills, and Amos's cart, laden with iron, overturned on a muddy track. The wheels crushed his chest, his breath fled, and darkness swallowed him. Miriam wept, clutching Ruth, as the village healers shook their heads, naming him dead. His body lay still, his eyes unseeing, and the world prepared to mourn. But in that darkness a light blazed forth, a city of gold, its gates of pearl flung wide, its streets aglow with the radiance of the Lamb. Revelation 21:21. Rivers of living water sparkled, trees bore fruit for the healing of nations, and angels sang in choirs unnumbered, their voices a symphony of praise. On Revelation 22:1-2. The Savior stood before him, his form scarred yet radiant, his eyes burning with a love that pierced Amos's soul. Thy time is not yet, he spake. Return and bear witness to what thou hast seen. Amos awoke, gasping, to the dim light of earth, his chest aching, his limbs trembling. The healers marveled, calling it a miracle. Miriam fell to her knees, praising God. But Amos was silent, his heart tethered to the glory he had left behind. Hope surged within him. He would live for this vision, proclaim it to all who would hear. Yet the path was strewn with thorns. His body was frail, each breath a labor, each step a battle. The village mocked his tale. A delusion born of pain, they scoffed, the raving of a man half dead. Miriam, torn between love and fear, urged him to be silent, lest the village shun them. Think of Ruth, she pleaded. We cannot live on dreams of heaven. If thou feelest the sting of their doubt, like this story, and share it to honor Amos's resolve. Now behold the struggles rise and fall, a journey of faith tested by fire. Amos ventured to the marketplace, his voice weak but fervent, recounting the city of God. A few listened, a widow whose son had died, a youth seeking meaning, their eyes alight with wonder. But others jeered, casting stones of scorn. A merchant, once his friend, turned away, fearing his trade would suffer. Ruth, too young to grasp his words, tugged at his cloak. Why dost thou speak of heaven when we have no bread? Despair crept in like a shadow. Had he mistaken God's call? Was his vision a fevered dream, as the skeptics claimed? In the silence of the night, he fell to his knees, crying, Lord, if this be thy will, give me strength. And lo, the Savior's face appeared in his mind's eye, his love rekindling Amos's hope. He rose and spoke again, this time to a beggar by the roadside, a man cast out by the village. The beggar's tears bore witness to the truth, and Amos's heart lifted. God was with him. Yet new obstacles loomed. A village elder, Simon, a man of influence and doubt, challenged him. Thy tales unsettle the people. Cease or be cast out. Amos wavered, the forge calling him back to a life of quiet toil. The world whispered, be silent and live in peace. His strength faltered, his faith trembled, and he nearly turned back. But a new trial brought clarity. A child in the village, Leah, fell gravely ill, her mother weeping at her bedside. Amos knelt beside her, recounting the hope of heaven, praying with a fervor born of his vision. Miraculously, Leah's fever broke, and she lived. The village stirred, whispers of God's power spreading like wildfire. If this ebb and flow of hope and trial gripeth thee, like this tale, and share it to spread Amos's perseverance. Yet hearken further, for the journey grew darker before the dawn. Simon the elder rallied the skeptics, accusing Amos of blasphemy. He deceiveth the people with tales of heaven, Simon declared, his voice like thunder. The village divided. Some believed Amos, others sided with Simon, and Amos stood at a crossroads. His body weakened daily, the scars of his accident a constant reminder of his mortality. Miriam, torn by fear, pleaded, Speak no more, or we shall lose all. Ruth, now understanding her father's heart, clung to him, whispering, I believe thee, Father. In this moment of crisis, Amos recalled the parable of the sower, Matthew 13:3-9. Some seeds fell on stony ground, but others took root in good soil. He resolved to be a seed that bore fruit, no matter the cost. He sought counsel from an old woman, Esther, a widow known for her faith. She listened to his tale, her eyes gleaming with tears. Thou hast seen what I have only dreamed, she said. Speak, for God hath chosen thee. Her words were a balm, strengthening his resolve. He began to gather the believers in secret, sharing his vision under the stars, their hearts knit together by hope. Yet Simon's threats grew. Rumors spread that Amos would be banished, his family left to starve. The tension mounted. Each day a battle between fear and faith, doubt and determination. If Esther's encouragement and Simon's opposition stir thee, like this story, and share it to rally others to Amos's cause. Then came the hour of reckoning, a Sabbath eve when the village gathered in the square. Simon stood, his voice commanding, denouncing Amos as a deceiver. Let him prove his vision, or let him be silent forever, he roared. The crowd murmured, some jeering, others waiting. Amos, frail and trembling, stepped forward, his heart pounding like a drum. He was no orator, no priest, but the Spirit moved within him as it moved in Peter at Pentecost. Acts 2:14. I died, he proclaimed, and saw the city of God, where tears are no more and the Lamb is the light. I saw the Savior, scarred yet radiant, who bade me return, not for my glory, but for his. I speak not to deceive, but to awaken, believe, and seek the eternal. His words, simple yet searing, fell like rain on parched ground. A skeptic, moved by the child Leah's healing, wept openly. A widow whose son had died knelt, whispering, I see hope again. A youth once swayed by Simon vowed to follow the God Amos described. Even Simon faltered, his eyes troubled, as the crowd stirred with awe. In that moment, Amos was transformed, no longer a laborer of the forge, but a herald of heaven, no longer a man of doubt, but a vessel of God's truth. The village turned to God, believers gathering to pray, skeptics questioning their doubt. Miriam, seeing the fruit of his testimony, embraced his mission, tears of joy streaming down her face. Ruth, clinging to his hand, whispered, I knew thou spokest truth. The vision was no longer Amos's alone. It was a flame that spread beyond the village, reaching travelers, merchants, and distant kin, kindling faith in hearts afar. If this triumph lifteth thy spirit, like this tale, and share it to ignite faith in every corner. But see now, let this story not end with Amos's victory. Turn thine eyes to thine own life, O reader. Art thou bound to the dust of this world, chasing shadows that fade? Amos's vision was not for him alone, but for thee, to teach the brevity of life and the weight of eternity. Consider the parable of the pearl of great price, Matthew 13:45-46. A merchant sold all to gain it, as Amos surrendered ease to bear his vision. What changed him? The Savior's love, which burned away his fear, the reality of heaven, which dwarfed earth's treasures, the call to witness, which gave his life purpose. And what may change thee? Thou needest not die to seek God's kingdom. His grace is nigh, his spirit ready to kindle thy heart. Ask thyself, what holdeth thee back from living for the eternal? Is it fear of men's scorn, as Amos faced? Or love of comfort, as he was tempted? His journey showeth that God useth the broken, the doubtful, the ordinary to bear his light. Let his story be thy mirror. Seek the eternal, not the fleeting. Share the hope, not the silence. Trust the Savior who prepareth a place for thee. John 14:2. Rise each morn with purpose. Comfort the grieving, for thou knowest heaven's joy. Seek the lot, for thou hast heard of salvation. Live simply, for thou understandest earth's brevity. If this lesson burneth in thy soul, like it, and share it that others may live for God. Ponder this further. Amos's vision reacheth beyond his village. A traveler, hearing his tale, carried it to a city where a mourner found hope. A merchant, once skeptical, shared it with his kin, planting seeds of faith. Ruth, growing in her father's footsteps, became a light to her generation. So too canst thou be a ripple of grace, each like, each share, each word of this story, a seed sown in hearts unknown. Live not for thyself, but for the kingdom. Speak not for thine own glory, but for his. Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Matthew 5:16. If this vision of impact stirreth thee, like and share this tale to sow hope afar. This chronicle weaveth into the tapestry of God's grace, shining alongside the addict redeemed from chains as Amos was from death. The survivor spared for purpose as he was for witness. The skeptic awakened by truth as he awakened others. The despairing calmed by peace as he found in heaven's light. The sick healed by power and he was restored. The sinner cleansed by mercy as he was by love. The prisoner freed by light, as he was by vision. The soul restored from loss, as he gained eternity. The missionary called from shadows, as he was from the forge. The soul loosed from drugs, as he was from doubt. And the mother upheld through trials, as he was through scorn. Each is a thread of redemption. This vision a golden strand of God's glory, eternity, and call to live for what endureth. O magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt his name together. Psalm 34:3. This is their anthem, rising to the throne. If this tapestry moveth thee, like it, and share it to proclaim his manifold grace. And what of thee, O thou who readest these words? Dost thou fear the grave, or live as though this world were all? The God who showed heaven to Amos waiteth for thee, not with a vision for every eye perchance, but with a promise sure, I am the resurrection and the life. John 11:25. In this age of dust and distraction, let this tale be thine awakening. Cling not to the temporal, which fadeth as a flower. Seek the eternal, which shineth as the stars. Fear not death, but live for the one who conquereth it. For as Amos died and saw heaven, so mayest thou, by faith, by surrender, by a heart turned to the Savior who calleth thee home. Come, live forever, and share the story to light the way for others, that they too may find the path to eternity. Amen.